Oh,
Most
yeah.
people think about restoration, they think about hurricanes for some reason. It's always
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't live where there's like flooding and it's like, this is not like the weather is like gravy when it happens and you get to help a lot of people, but that's not what this business is about.
Welcome back to the Pursuit of Profit podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Holly Murry, president of FRST Team. Today, we're discussing how Holly climbed through the ranks from field tech to president over her 30-year career, how national vendor programs have become 50% of their revenue, with average locations doing over 2.2 million, how this growing and affordable franchise still has wide open territory across the U.S., and why we love FRST Team and brands that eat what they cook. We hope you enjoy the show, and please follow us as we drop new episodes each week on Wednesdays.
Holly, you're like the Derek Jeter of restoration. Like you spent your entire career with the same company. That's rare nowadays.
It is extremely rare nowadays, especially in today's environment, right? Where there's rapidly moving industry changes. I think you see companies do a ton of turnover and restructurings happen pretty frequently, I would say, at most companies. And even with the restructuring, the fact that I've survived them all is probably a shock.
There's a lot to talk about today. I'm excited for the call.
This is a cool one.
Yeah.
This is a business that we love and we know a lot about it.
That's right.
Have you guys done a lot of interactions with other restoration firms?
Not contents, but we were in the restoration business as franchisors. Executives of a franchisor, and we made an investment in a restoration franchise, and it was one of our biggest wins in franchising. So we could speak about the business with you. So let's start there for people who don't know what FRST Team does. Recession resilience, recession resistance is thrown around so much in franchising. Mm-hmm. It's so subjective, like is a cleaning company recession resistant? Is a painting franchise recession? Like they probably say they will do well, but it's hard to say. Right. And then there's industries that are truly essential services. Like there's nothing discretionary about it. Mm-hmm. Restoration does not care about wars, geopolitical risks, recessions, what's happening in the economy, who the president is. It does not matter. If someone has a fire or a water loss, got to put the property back together, right? It's kind of a catastrophic event in their lives. That industry, though, so this massive $210 billion restoration industry has kind of consolidated, meaning like a lot of claims are going through national call centers, TPAs, third-party administrators, and so on. So if you're not one of the big players, it's tough to compete. And what's interesting about FRST Team is you are one of the major players operating in this niche part of the restoration business called contents restoration. So maybe we start there, Holly. Explain what that is and what you guys do.
We started in really dry cleaning and laundry, right? And not retail. So our company really started in restoration. It didn't have a retail dry cleaning front. We just handled people's clothing and sentimental items that were impacted by fire. And then throughout the course of FRST Team's evolution, me and my business partners expanded and added electronics as part of that kind of service offering side. And then the expansion into full contents back in 2021. And the reason for that is our carrier partners, right? When you think about a loss and you think about a homeowner has a fire or a business has a fire, I grew up in this industry for 29 years. And when I look back, most of the concerns that would come up on a claim or challenges that we would have people wouldn't know where their stuff is, right? Mm-hmm. So their dry cleaning went one way, their electronics and TVs were held by somebody else, their furniture was a different company. If they had taxidermy, maybe that was somebody even different. Documents went to a fourth part, right? And so typically for a homeowner or a business owner, they want to know that all of their items really are housed and seated and being handled by one company. And so the evolution into full contents is really natural for us. And so when you think about contents and what it means, for us, it really means if you take a home or a business and you turn it upside down and you shook it, everything that kind of falls out falls under contents. So whether that falls under your contents policy with your carrier or it falls under a contents restoration company is going to handle it. And so for us, really, when you look at contents, the hardest part of that is the dry cleaning and laundry, right? That's the most difficult to learn and master when it comes to hard contents and knickknacks and dishes, right? Those are things that it's really all about how you handle them, how you take care of them. And it's all about communication, right? Everyone handles their items and belongings a little bit different, right? One of you, maybe Cliff, line dries his jeans. Maybe Justin throws all of his colors and whites together. And I probably have that backwards, but
I would never. How dare you?
He's the
And so-
metrosexual male. Yeah.
right.
This is coming from the guy who dry cleans his underwear. So
There
please.
you go.
Okay. We proceed.
Yeah. And so it's really about communicating, right? And being there for somebody at their time of need.
Mhm.
And that's really the niche of, and when you think about recession resistant specifically, I think, Justin, really that came to light when COVID, right? When we went under the pandemic and businesses all over, right, were literally shut down. I would tell you that the restoration industry was one of the very, very first, right? We're considered first responders. And even within the restoration industry, you'll hear people reference first responders within restoration, because you're right. When it comes to a fire or water damage or some type of catastrophic, it doesn't decide who it impacts and who it doesn't. It doesn't make that decision based on your financial value or whoever is president. Unfortunately, accidents and catastrophic events happen every day in homes all over the country,
It's so true.
Yeah.
all over the world, really, right?
That's what we tell
Yeah.
clients. That this business, because we have clients all the time. I'm going to wait for the election. I'm going to wait to see what they do with the Fed. I'm going to wait to see. I'm going to wait to see. And it's like, look, you're investigating an industry that is irrelevant to all that. The presidential election is irrelevant to the fact that there will be thousands of water losses across this country this year, next year, and the year after, and fires. Or hurricanes. If anything, they're more prevalent, right? So you look at all these, it's just irrelevant. And so many clients focus on economic cycles, right? It's never a good time for anyone. Are you going to have kids? Yeah, not yet. We're waiting. Everyone's always waiting for something. Did you buy Bitcoin yet? Yeah, I got to wait and see a little bit. Did you buy everyone has reasons to not do things. This is one of those businesses where, like, strip your excuses. Like, now the king is naked, right? It's like, look, this is all about you and your confidence in being successful in business. And we learned that very quickly. We ran a multi-million-dollar restoration company in Annapolis, Maryland. And we did pack outs and contents, cleaning and use companies just like yourself. CRDN, a matter of fact, which I believe is a competitor, but you've evolved way beyond CRDN. I commend you for how you've just evolved the brand versus just sitting there doing textiles.
I think it's really interesting, right? Competition makes us all better. And I think we always have to look at, like, what's next, right? What's coming next on the horizon. And I think for me, right, we work in a service industry. So it's about taking care of the customers, taking care of our carrier partners, and even our contractor partners, right? Like you mentioned, as a restoration contractor that's doing mitigation or structure, they're typically working with my company or one of somebody in my space, right? So they're either working with FRSTeam or they're working with, there's multiple competitors in the space. It's all about taking care of the customer. And how do we do that collectively as an industry? How do we really focus on the homeowner or the business? How do we work closer together to get them back up and running, to get their home rebuilt, right? To bring them back, really restoring their life back to what it was before this event happened. And obviously, being in the industry as long as I have, sometimes you get this amazing opportunity where you get to see that moment when you deliver something back and it's the kid's favorite stuffed animal, or their blankie, right? And there's a moment of hope, right? That everything is going to be okay after a loss. And there's something about that gives you goosebumps, and there's an amazing opportunity. We're really blessed to be able to deal with people's really sentimental, all of their belongings. And then there's other losses, right? That, you're dealing with really the magnitude of the impact emotionally on somebody, more so than the fact that we're just cleaning items.
That's right. It's true. Like we used to say that we're returning to pre-loss condition. right? We're going to bring you back to the beginning. You're going to get your clothes. People don't realize it, just for the audience. I don't think people like understand that just a simple protein fire in a kitchen. Let's just say it's a turkey, gets set on fire, causes a ton of damage. The audience doesn't understand that odor will permeate every fabric, every textile, everything in that home. And just this domino effect of, oh my goodness, I just opened up my closet, my, Ferragamos and my, this is a Justin closet, obviously, a designer
With Louis
closet.
Vuitton.
That's right. That's right, Holly. A designer closet of clothing where, if it was just a regular Hanes or just a regular shirt, you may say it's not even worth sending out. No, it's your property. The insurance is going to cover it. Give it to FRST Team and let them return your clothing, your window treatments, your bedspreads. Like, this is what I mean by people don't understand the scope of the opportunity when something as simple. And you know what's interesting about this call? Today's the 22nd of November. This is like fire season we're entering.
'Tis the season. Yeah.
That's right. And this is protein fire season where these people are now deep frying turkeys in their house. My brother almost set his house on fire. He did a deep fried turkey. He was smart enough to do it outside, but because it was so cold and he was in Illinois, it ended up like, I guess you would say, like bursting the oil, and ended up getting on the garage wall, and it was all fire. He's like, holy crap, I almost set his head. So this stuff happens, to the smartest of people. That's why it's an accident and it's a catastrophe, and it's covered. You've heard from some incredible franchise brands right here on the podcast. If you're sitting there wondering which opportunity might be the right fit for you, we're here to help. At FRSTeam, we offer free consulting services to aspiring small business owners just like you. We'll guide you through a focused, strategic process to help you identify the best franchise match. Call or text us at 561-277-3710 or visit us on the web at FRSTeam.com. That's FRANOCITY.com. We look forward to working with you.
Yeah. People think about restoration, they think about hurricanes for some reason. It's always like, oh, I don't live where there's like flooding and it's like, this is not like, the weather is like gravy when it happens and you get to help a lot of people, but that's not what this business is about. People don't realize little kitchen fires happen every day. The little connection on the toilet bowl, that thing snaps all the time. There's water loss. Like, this shit happens all the time. And that's kind of the bread and butter for this business. There was a little mini fire that the guy was cooking something for lunch, went to the bathroom, came out. It was like 5 minutes, right? Fire extinguisher, put it out, but it was going on just long enough that it triggered the sprinkler. The whole building, the water flowed through 6 floors of the building.
Oh my goodness.
And he's outside of his apartment, and he has his head in his hands, and he's just completely distraught. And I'm like, dude, what happened? He goes, it was like 2 minutes. And now he's an IT guy. He goes, Justin, I have dozens of MacBooks in this apartment. He goes, the shit that I have in here is worth tens of thousands of dollars. And there's just a little layer of soot on top of everything. Mm-hmm. And the smell, and now the water, that flow that sprayed. And this guy's life was like displaced for months.
Yeah. And most people don't understand, right? That those items typically can be restored, right? We can take them apart. We can clean them internally. I think there's just this natural tendency to just dispose, right? People, it's not the laptop itself that has the value, right? It's what's on the laptop that holds all the value. Think about how much time it takes you to re-upload software, right? How long does it take you to get back on all of the software and all of the programs? Not to mention, a lot of us live in a digital world, and our photos, right? Some of us are really good about uploading to the cloud. Some of us not so much. And I think sometimes people just don't think about that, is that it's not just a $1,400 laptop that has to get replaced. If it can get cleaned and restored for $150 and taken apart, and it's totally operational, and you can log back in right after, right? And the speed of turnaround, right, for businesses, when you think about restoration for businesses, it's about how quickly can we be back up and running, right? If there's a flood in an office building and it covers all of these desktop and laptop computers with water and soot, how quickly can that get restored and back so that the business can get operational again? And those are really critical things. That's really what evolves the restoration industry. Isn't so much that they want necessarily all new laptops. It's think of all the stuff that's on a laptop that you really can't always replace.
That's right. Yeah, we had those little ovens, something that you would see at a restaurant, and they would put CPUs in there and laptops and heat it up just enough
Dry
to
them
like
out.
open up the pores of plastic, right? It's absolutely a science, just like the science of drying and vortexes of air and the science of mold remediation and IICR. Are you guys IICRC? Do you need that certification to be in your business?
So when you think about like the structure and water mitigation and mold, right, there's a lot of regulations around that. With contents, there's not. Now, I will tell you that I've been a part of like the RIA Association and IICRC since I started with the company. So I have a number of certifications and most of our staff will go, but as a franchisor, right, a lot of that we manage internally. So we do a lot of our internal training and certification by FRSTeam, right? Because there's pieces, especially when it comes to like textiles in particular. When it comes to dry cleaning and laundry, IICRC has kind of some basic stuff, but nothing compared to what you would see as like a expert dry cleaner or somebody who's really specialized in the cleaning field.
People have asked me like, why wouldn't I just do dry cleaning? And I'm like, a button-down Oxford anywhere in America at any given time could be $1, $1.99. Now put some protein odor on it. It could be $5, $6, $7 for the same shirt. And like, I got it. Just getting that same shirt, right?
Yeah.
This white shirt button-down Oxford went to work. And then this shirt got involved in a fire in the house or some smoke damage or mold.
It's definitely not the same price, right? Especially when you're dealing with things like odor and soot and contaminants, the same way that I can, you see the advertisement, you can have all your carpeting cleaned for $99 for the whole house or a room, right? You throw some water and microbials in the issue and it's like a totally different game, right? You've got to be able to make sure that you're not causing mold, that you're not causing damage, that you're removing the contaminants.
That's
and
right.
so it's a huge game changer for sure.
Okay. You guys go in. Step one is the pack out, right? So we take all the things that can be removed from a home that are not actually part of the structure. We remove them from the home. Do your franchisees actually have a warehouse where you're storing contents then? And then you have to have different equipment to restore different types of things. And then again, the insurance company is paying you to do the pack out, store everything, clean and restore the contents, and then eventually pack the contents back into the home. So it's cool that like you're paid for every step of the way. But how complex is this other than just picking up stuff and carrying it into your warehouse and storing it? There's different equipment needed to restore a laptop as opposed to a t-shirt.
Yeah. So, and it varies, right? It depends on the type of loss, right? And the extent of the damage always goes into it. We really kind of set ourselves with responsible restoration. So not always on every claim does everything need to actually get packed out and stored off site or even cleaned, right? Depending on the level of contaminants. And so you could have one job where it's a small kitchen fire and maybe that nasty protein odor didn't get spread throughout the house. Or so I think it's really about walking the loss and really that we call it the first 15, right? You're photo documenting everything in the home, right? How it is today, right? I think, Cliff, you mentioned earlier that you bring things to a pre-loss condition. So that doesn't necessarily mean that something becomes new again. And I think it's important that you're documenting, right? If there's nicks and scratches, I think in restoration for mitigation, is there staining on the carpet? How old are the draperies? And it's really about talking and communicating on a high level to the insured, right? About, do the drapes need to go? What kind of condition are they in? We don't want to clean and restore things that people don't want, right? Especially in households with children, right? The kids grow at a rapid rate. In particular, the smaller they are, if you are going to be out of their home for 6 months and they have a 6-month-old, you probably shouldn't be restoring the 6-month-old clothing except for what you get back right away in kind of an emergency order or a rush order that they're going to need to get through this period of time. Then everything gets packed out. And yeah, there's a variety of different equipment that you utilize, right? To move large furniture, you've got to have typically a box truck. If you're going to move appliances like dishwashers and refrigerators, right? Refrigerators can't lay down. A lot of it's about packaging too, right? You want to make sure that items are well protected during this phase. And then you bring them back to the facility, and the facility has a variety of different equipment. There's specific electronics cleaning equipment like an Odell machine where you're using deionized water and special things to clean those types of items. When it comes to laundry and dry cleaning, there's pressing equipment, there's dry cleaning equipment. So we set our franchisees up for success to make sure they have all the tools that they need to be able to handle and process all the items internally. And yeah, then you're storing them for what can be a few days and it could be a few years. We sometimes will store things for a really long period of time until the home is restored. The more severe the damage at the lost site, the longer something is likely being stored. We also sometimes will make a delivery to a temp residence. Not everybody wants to live in a hotel room for 3 months. So they sometimes will find like an Airbnb maybe that they're going to stay in for that period. So they maybe can take back more of their belongings that they need during the time that they're displaced.
That's interesting. So you're doing, we used to call them Jacksonville crates, where we would go in, do the pack out, put them in containers, and then store them in the warehouse. You're doing that as, in addition to contents cleaning, you're charging the insurance company to store those items until they're able to be, and then you're paid again to pack it in, to now put the product back into the home.
Correct. You should be getting paid every time you touch it, right?
Yeah.
It takes labor costs. And so I think it's important, right? You've got to have really service focused people that really care about other people and care about belongings that are handling items, right? We always say that how we handle their belongings and their items really will be a positive outcome for the loss. If you have somebody who's a little less careful, right? Accidents can happen even within our industry, right? Somebody can drop a TV just the way that if you could do one in your house, right? So we really train on caution and making sure that things are protected and against further accident and damage while the handling, which is why sometimes when you look at the content space, some contractors love it and they are really good at it, and other contractors like, nope, tried it, not for us. They maybe had difficulty with people really taking good care of people's belongings.
This conversation we're having was one of our greatest business learning lessons. Justin, if you remember, every year we were paying approximately $50,000 to homeowners for damaging their personal property, including running over a bicycle, cutting gas lines while we're cutting out sheetrock, breaking treadmills because they weren't being carried and harnessed properly, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the business lesson. What we learned was that people will exert a limited amount of energy to get what they want, but they will fight like hell to keep what they have. And what we did is we said, we're going to put 50 grand in a bonus pool. Mm-hmm. So at the end of that 50 grand is what we pay homeowners for all of your lack of diligence and lack of concern for other people's property. Whatever's left at the end of the year will be distributed based on a percentage of your earnings with the company. It was a great learning lesson. To your point, you have to have people that care. They respect personal property. You're coming into their home. It already suffered a catastrophe. Do you really need to kick someone when they're down by now further ruining something? It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah. And people have sentimental attachment to their belongings, right? I mean, most of us, we deal with whether it's a flag that's maybe been passed down from generation to generation. It could be an Afghan or a quilt that maybe someone's great grandparent made, right? You ruin an item like that, there's no coming back from that. And so I think for us, it's really, we call them goosebump moments at FRSTeam, right? Where when we go into the home, we ask really poignant questions on the front end about what's the most important things in your home, right? When you think about your belongings, and we'll ask them certain things, like when you walk through the house and you're taking your photo documentation, you're going to ask them, you look in the room and you look for things like pictures or awards or trophies, things that clearly maybe have some sentimental value. And then you get to ask the system, right, that you buy into with a franchise system that helps make you better at this process versus how most of us learned on the School of Hard Knocks, right? Where, okay, well, you only ruin that quilt one time before you ask about a lot of quilts, right?
Right. A restoration contractor would call on what we call the FNOL, first notice of loss, right? Who's the first person to get that call when there's damage? It could be an insurance agent or an adjuster or a property manager, maybe a plumber if it's a water loss. Who are you calling on, Holly? Who are you building relationships with, and where are the jobs coming from? Are you getting it from the insurance community, or are you calling on the restoration company?
So both, right? So we really focus on national accounts, right? So we have national relationships with a number of carriers across the country so that depending on who you're insured with, that insurance company is going to send us the assignment, right? So you're going to get about 50% of our work comes direct through those direct carrier relationships. And then the other 50% comes from all those contractors that don't do contents, right? And even maybe they do contents, maybe they do the pack out and pack back, but they don't do dry cleaning. So maybe we just do dry cleaning for some of our contractors or just do electronics restoration, right? Every contractor is a little bit different about what they handle and what they don't handle. And so we really try and just be a really great partner to them and help assist them. And sometimes the reality is even if they do full contents, let's say the contractor maybe even is dabbling in textiles and electronics, they're going to get busy at some point and not be able to handle everything and keep their service levels high. And so we really, even in that case, want to make sure we have a strong relationship with our contractor partners to be able to assist them when they have overflow.
Every founder, every CEO, they all just like say it because they're so used to it.
Right.
They don't realize how profound.
Half of our franchisees' business comes from us.
Yeah, right. They're just like, yeah, we give our franchisees $1 million a year on average, and then they have a car, right? It's just like you just say it. And it's like, wait a second. Every day, Justin and I are dealing with prospective franchisees. Well, are they going to build my business for me? And it's like, well, it depends, right? Some franchises, you're buying their name. They have a proof of concept. They're going to train you. Other brands will answer your phone. Other brands will actually do estimates over the call. They'll book appointments. Some actually have national vendor programs, and they'll give you a significant amount of revenue. And you're that brand, right? So for the people that are listening, it's like they've heard a lot of episodes, and most of those episodes are not talking about half of your revenue will come from national vendor programs. Right. And we never tell the client, buy the franchise because they're going to build it for you. Vendor programs are the sprinkles on top of the icing, on top of the cake. You got to build your brand. Right. You got to bake the cake. Exactly. But isn't your average revenue around 2.2 million?
It is.
Yeah, it's a lot of sprinkles.
It's a lot of sprinkles. We have an amazing team, right? So when you look at our national accounts team, we have a lot of tenure on that team, right? We have people that have been in the industry and with FRSTeam for well over 10 years. And I was around when we first started the franchise in 2006, there were 0 national accounts, right? Wow. They didn't even exist in the dry cleaning industry. I think the very first national, and it was a TPA that started the first national dry cleaning program back in 2007. And so they didn't even exist when I started. And now I look at it and I think, gosh, we have 35 national account programs across, between the US and Canada, and it drives 50% of our revenue. And those are strong carrier partners. We have one of the top 3 largest companies that we have a national contract with for textiles and electronics. We have several of the, I think 7 of the top 10 from a PIF count policy, right, have a direct relationship with FRSTeam. And so we're incredibly blessed. And I think a lot of that really goes to the credit of not just the national sales team, but our franchisees, right? They have to perform. We signed our first national account in 2007, and we still have that account today with that carrier. Wow. And so I just think that's part of why we've been so successful is our franchisees knock it out of the park, right? They really get why we are here, right? We really understand that we help homeowners and businesses every day kind of get back on their feet. And if you do that incredibly well, you can make an incredible career out of that.
I want to talk about that. Average revenue. So this is the 2023 FDD, right? So we're talking about 2023 numbers. Average revenue 2.2 million. I have average gross profit of 1.4 million. And I have gross revenue of 292,000 or 13%. Does that sound right?
I would say that if whenever we onboard a new franchise or somebody is looking at being a part of the FRSTeam brand, we highly, highly encourage them to do brand verification, right? Call our franchisees, because that's the financials that they report to us, right? And
that's right.
We all know that a lot of time owners take some privileges, right? They have that part of the joys of owning a business is you get to write off things, right? That makes sense in you and your business, right? Maybe you take a business getaway, right? Where you take your top performing sales rep and maybe their family and you do a reward benefit trip. There's some ownership privilege that happens day in and day out as an owner that really you can't always see in an item 19.
I completely agree. But
I just want to clarify, you called it 2023. It's the 2024 FDD that has the 2023
data.
Numbers.
Yes, you're correct.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
And you'll see a new one here, right? I just saw the financials come through the other day. And so the new 2025, which will show 2024 data. So, and we continue, right? Like, I think when it comes to averages, it's an average. So I think if I look at that and I'm looking at a business, I'm like, well, I'm going to be better than average. Who wants to be average? Right.
A lot of brands, though, with this kind of revenue, these vendor programs, they're normally national. So primary markets are sold out. There's really not a lot of opportunity. And that's why we don't want to bring someone on the show where it's like, this is awesome. You're completely sold out, right?
You got to own one to get one kind of mentality.
That's right. But with you, we have all these amazing metrics. And I'm actually impressed that you've done what you've done with the vendor programs, because your distribution channel is really not that big, right?
Yeah, but you're giving huge territories, right?
Yeah. So if you go back to our founding days, right, when we started the franchise in 2006, we really gave away really big territories, right? So that we could, on a map, show national coverage to go after national accounts. So when we first started, right, we owned and operated back in 2006, 6 company operations on the West Coast. The goal of the franchise was, hey, we need just enough dots on the map to go get national program work so that we can just keep running our company operations and make all our money running an operation, right? That really was the goal initially. I would say only since we made the move to private equity, right, in 2020, did anyone say, hey, we should talk about Fran Dev. We should talk about expansion, and it was really the first time throughout our entire history that we started looking at, we advertised, we met you guys at the show at the CFA, right? And at the CFA, that was our very first franchise selling show that we have ever done. So
wow,
we're really kind of new to this.
Okay.
How do you put dots on the map piece? We've never worked with a broker before. We never advertised. We never did anything from a lead gen. Literally, our expansion to 50 operations was, hey, Justin owns the FRSTeam franchise, got in, right? And he knows Cliff. And he's like, Cliff, you should look at this. And then Cliff bought a franchise. That's really how our expansion has grown since 2006. And so we're really new to this, which is why there's still white space.
You're going to kill it. This is something that clients should contact us to learn more about. And it's interesting because we get on this call and we talk about how much we like a brand. Just because we like a brand and we have you on the show doesn't mean the brand is right for the listener right now. A lot of times they're like, oh, why even bother calling them? I'll just call FRSTeam. I'll go direct. Right, but you're not a fit for that brand. You're an engineer. You don't like people. You like to play with software and zeros and ones. Like, you're not a fit.
Yeah.
Don't even, just because you like the revenue numbers and you like this sexy story, like, it doesn't mean it's a
true.
fit for you. Yeah.
This
there's no
industry actually
leapfrogging
attracts
this.
engineers too, right? It attracts people who like to tinker and fix things, and
Oh,
right,
equipment.
and like the science behind drying and the equipment. Like they get excited. Who's acquiring customers? It is a relationship building business,
So
and
true.
without that, we've seen so many people go nowhere in the industry.
Justin was the vice president of development for PureClean. I was the executive vice president of development for PureClean. So he and I worked together at that brand. And we would target the guys that were like, look at this wand. Look at this flood
Right.
sucker. Look, oh, is that a desiccant machine? And, right? It's like, you don't have hydroxyl. Yes, we do. Oh my God, hydroxyl. Way better than ozone. It's like, dude, you gotta like, you're in all the wrong areas. Shouldn't you be in the sales room wanting to know how to build your brand so you could use all these really cool tools? That is a big flag when they just get overly excited about the equipment. And it's like, man, put yourself in check. This might not be a good fit.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's
I
great
think
that they're passionate, but they got to be passionate about selling.
they do. And I think, right, for us too, I look at business owners as you need a yin and a yang, right? You got to have the person that's going to drive the sales and drive the growth and be the extrovert, right? And create an amazing culture for your team. And you also need the people that get excited about the equipment and, they're the zeros and ones kind of guys. I think you need both. But, I think it goes back to, right, there's a billion different businesses that you can do in this world. And you really do have to find the thing that gives you passion, that really excites you day in and day out. It's why I'm still here after 29 years, right? Is I still really love what we do at FRST Team. The fact that we get to help people every day. We get to see people build a business and grow that business and reach new levels of success. We get to take care of customers every day. And I think that's so critical. A piece of what we do is if you don't enjoy helping people, you should not do anything in the restoration field, right? Like it really does come down to that. And I agree with you. I think it's so important, Cliff, that they reach out to somebody like you or Justin to really talk through what's a good fit for them. Because I think, I think it was my dad that probably taught me growing up, right? Like find something that you love to do and it'll never feel like work.
So true.
It's so true.
We're technically working right now.
I know,
Like
it's
this
crazy.
is working. I know when I see these guys doing things, it's like, man, that just looks like fun. Like I don't view this as work. The research, like researching you and learning about your brand, the research part could be viewed as work, but I actually enjoy the research because I genuinely want to learn about all these different brands, not that I'm investing in them all, but I want to learn. I want to expand my mind. I think it's great. I've learned a lot about your business and we knew something about it prior, but we learned a little bit about you. In fact, I have a list of all the things I love about your brand. But I do want to go back to the investment because you have one of the widest ranges I think I've ever seen in an FDD. You really do. I mean, it's like, could you imagine how much is this? It's between 44 and 411,000. Talk about it.
Yeah, so it is a really wide range. And the reason for that is oftentimes how people came into the brand is through what I would call a transition, right? So they own maybe a retail dry cleaner. So they already have dry cleaning equipment and laundry equipment and vehicles. And they're just really looking at getting into the restoration space. So that's where you see this big range is it really depends on kind of what you're coming in. If you're starting out from the scratch, you're probably looking at around 225, right? From a full startup, like I've got nothing going in. I don't know anything about restoration. I got to buy a hydroxyl machine, right?
Do you use hydroxyl?
We do use hydroxyl.
I was just throwing that out. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we do use ozone and hydroxyl, right? Ozone's the old school methodology, but most people have transitioned fully over to hydroxyl. I think they both have different benefits and negatives, and then some of it's through the cleaning of the items, right? So it depends on what we're cleaning. But I think, right, we have offices that also range from over 60,000 square foot warehouse to just over 5. So it really depends, right, on the territory that you're looking at, really what your goals and expansion are. I think for us, right, there's ways that you can kind of expand slowly. So not every office needs a 60,000 square foot warehouse, there's options, right, that you can utilize, whether it's storage on site, there's pods, there's storage units all over the country, right, that you can utilize that are climate controlled for storage as you like max your capacity. So we really try and make sure that the system is set up so that you could come in at a lower level, right? And as you build the business, then you can continue to expand into a larger space, more vehicles as needed, right? More personnel. But we kind of give you the footprint and the kind of outline on how to do that and how to do that well.
Right. Are you using Xactimate for the billing?
Yeah, so most of our national accounts require Xactimate for sure.
Okay.
It's Verisk now, so they've gone through a rebranding, although I don't know that anyone stopped calling it Xactimate.
Okay.
But Xactimate is definitely the standard for pricing. The thing to remember about Xactimate and Verisk pricing is that it is considered medium of the road. So it's not meant to be used if it says that a shirt is $5.10. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're supposed to use that. Now, with national programs, you have to provide, F9 notes and things like that to make changes to pricing, but it's meant to be just kind of an average. So if we're dealing with Justin's Louis Vuitton bag, I'm not going to charge the same purse price that I would that's in Xactimate because it's not the same purse, right? He's got a $16,000 handbag. It requires different handling and different cleaning. And so I think the thing to remember with all of restoration is that those pricings are meant to be standard. And there's some great pricing statements that have been put out by companies like Verisk. And then obviously Symbility or CoreLogic is the second pricing platform that we utilize for, I think, 2 of our national programs as well.
Do you have anything that's proprietary? What's the tech stack look like?
Yeah, so there's the tech stack it varies, right? So we let some of our operators, you need a chain of custody system and you need to barcode and you need to follow certain chain of custodies. There's probably 3 biggest players here at FRSTeam. One is Gratis, which is a system based, it's actually an FRSTeam franchise out of Southern California, decided restoration was not for him. And he's a tech guy, right? He's the numbers guy. He's a rocket scientist, like legitimately, and he realized that maybe restoration wasn't for him. So he created a software called Gratis that about half of our FRSTeam offices use. It's barcoding. It has like an online virtual closet that you can access. It talks to the pricing software. It's amazing, right? And so most of our offices use that. It's internal. It's just FRSTeam. And then if they don't utilize that, the 2 largest that we see in the content space that you would see at a restoration company as well would be Content Track, which is a Verisk or Xactimate product. It does a lot of the same, right? It's got barcoding. It has chain of custody. You scan an item from the house to the truck, to the truck, to the cleaning, to storage back, right? And that's really what the chain of custody does for all of these softwares. Or you may use iCat, which is based out of Canada. So Content Track and iCat are probably the most generally used outside of FRSTeam.
Okay, got it.
But keep in mind, iCat and Content Track, they don't have the dry cleaning piece, right? So when you think of dry cleaning software, really where we cut our teeth, it's not just shirt. It's shirt, polo, silk, right? Whatever the brand is that you're dealing with. And so we needed more detail, which is what Gratis provides over some of these other softwares.
Yeah, we didn't need that. So we weren't doing the dry cleaning. We were outsourcing that.
Yeah.
As I told you, in the local market. The technology is so important.
And that is not my area of expertise.
I was talking to someone in restoration a couple of weeks ago at a franchise conference, and we were talking about tech, AI, right? Everyone's talking about AI. It just seems to be the thing to talk about. And she was saying that she sees the insurance industry getting away from adjusters so much because a contractor can just submit pictures and AI can kind of figure out the pricing and all the adjusting. Where do you see this going?
I think you see mass, like if you follow any of the big insurance journals and you read, there's been major layoffs, downsizing, restructuring on the carrier side. And part of the reason for that is you're correct. You don't need as many adjusters. And so even if you look at the auto side of insurance, right? Because property kind of follows auto. Auto moved to something like 70% of all auto claims. No adjuster ever even sees it, right? You upload your pictures. It goes using, technology and AI and intelligence. It validates, right? It can check your credit, really, because what an adjuster was looking for, right, is it had to rule out fraud, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, technology can rule out fraud, right? It can pinpoint the location of the picture and when it happened, and because the Internet of Things now, right? You don't trust a picture, you don't trust. All of that can be doctored. And so it uses really strong intelligence and technology to pinpoint locations and data points. And it runs through a tool. It can run against like your credit to see if you're a high risk for fraud. And it runs through all of that. And then it spits out a check, right? And it says, here's your money. Here's 4 companies we maybe recommend because we know that they're insured, high quality, right? Service levels. And I think we're going to continue to see that even in property. The challenge is that even with some great technology like Matterport or Encircle, where you take a camera and it spins in a room and it does like a 3-day imaging, we use that a lot, right? It maybe shows all of that, but it can't, if there's a drawer full of clothes, it can't determine what's in that drawer. So I think there's still going to be a need for some level of transparency and inventory that happens, but the carriers now are really relying upon their amazing service providers across the country to do that.
So far, I haven't, just for the record, I haven't heard about a job being created yet with AI. All I do is speak to people every day losing their jobs to AI. It's like, it is unbelievable what's going on with this thing.
When you have a claim, though, you still have to have somebody that can come out and meet with that homeowner, right? And show a level of empathy. And AI can't detect odors in a home, right? So we talked earlier about a protein fire where the whole house fills with smoke. That's not visible in pictures or video, right? So I think there's still a piece of that somebody has to go out there, and it's usually I think it's really moved to who's going to make the repairs, who's going to take care of the items. And that I think will always need to be there because people still want to deal with people. We love AI and we love technology. And don't get me wrong, I don't have to think as hard when I have to send a lot of emails if I use ChatGPT to help me. I think it improves my efficiency as an operator by using different technology.
I totally agree.
I often find that people who are attracted to this business, like senior care, are people who have dealt with the loss in the past and recognize the impact that the restoration company had on their lives. So they're like there's that emotional tie there. And then they always say, oh, and by the way, I saw the check that the insurance company sent them. And it's like, right. So you have like, it's rewarding both personally and financially.
It's so true.
And I think about, generationally, right? Who is coming into the workforce and who's looking for new career opportunities. And, I'm whatever, Gen Xer, right? But I identify a little bit with a baby boomer because I've been here 29 years, right? And only baby boomers did that. So I guess I've got that piece. But I think when I look at that, right, they're looking for meaning in a job. They don't want just to, run spreadsheets. They want meaning in their career, right? They want to find something that they're passionate about. And I really believe that the restoration industry as a whole is just an incredible opportunity for them to find some passion. There is nothing like going out and delivering items back and seeing somebody's eyes light up when they get something back that they thought was lost. There's just, you get to be there for what may be one of the worst days of their life, but you also get to be there at what is one of the best. And I think
so true.
There's something to be said about that.
That's what I would say. I agree with everything Justin said, but it just as a layer to that, we also do find people that genuinely care about other human beings, and they do like to play hero, and they do like the fact that you're suffering a disaster. You're standing on your driveway, your house is on fire, and I'm here with an S on my chest to help you. And it's like, oh, thank God for you people.
Thank God you're here. Yeah.
No, seriously. Yeah. It's like the Red Cross and then there's FRSTeam. It's like
Yeah.
this, you guys are we got this. Like, we're not first
Yeah.
time this rodeo. We're going to return your house to pre-loss condition. You're going to be very happy in the end. I know you're going through a troubling time. And I think a lot of people that enter this business do care genuinely about others. I think as I get older, I think about brands and things that I'm doing and just behavior. You want to leave behind a legacy. Like, what were you known for? What did you do? What was your business? How did that give back to humanity? Like investments that you make and things. Like, just as a sidebar, there was a stock that I was looking at, which was in the private prison business. And my son and I are very involved in doing things together, investing wise. He's 16. And he just said to me straight, he's like, I won't do it. I go, why? He goes, I am uncomfortable investing in a company that's in the prison business. Like, I don't want to be in a business where you're incentivizing a company to imprison people. People should be in prison for the right reason, not for economic reasons. I'm like, holy shit. But to this conversation, right? It's about, no, I have a moral compass. I want purpose, right? I want a legacy. Like, I want to know that I'm investing in something that I could be fulfilled in, not just intellectually, but on a lot of levels. Right? You got to get deep. Like, you're into culture, you're into your office, your people, the goosebump, like, you're into that. That's part of the mission of First Team. Is not just, yeah, we clean stuff. No, it's deeper than that, way deeper.
Yeah. And I think, profits come. I'm a big proponent of finding your why, right? Whatever your why is to start the business. And it should be something other than, I want to triple my income. I think that happens naturally when you're successful. You financially will do well. It just shouldn't be your number one motivation. And I know, right, like, profit is incredibly important. Most businesses don't make it 5 years. So profit has to be a piece of what you're doing. Right. But I always thought throughout the course of my career, right? And remember, I started working, I got a job at this company fresh out of college. At 21 years old, I was literally a technician when I started here. And so I think back about, what did I want to be as I expanded and grew with the company and moved into leadership and went from cleaning to going out on jobs to dealing with customers to sales, right? Really working in every aspect of the business. And it was always like, I wanted people to leave me better than they came to me. Whether it's a homeowner, whether it's an employee that you get to impact, right? Give them skills, give them help. I'm a big proponent of that. And I think if you stay focused on that, you can be successful in anything that you do. I think your story about, you damaged $50,000 worth of stuff. So you went to the staff and said, hey, we're going to make this better for you. You don't break stuff, and those stuff and belongings matter to people, right? If we don't do that, you're financially going to benefit from that. And that's making it better for them. So I think as long as you're always looking for ways to make it better, ways to help them, what did it do? It increased your profit, right? Because you have less damages. You're not having to pay out because people aren't breaking stuff. And that increases your online and your ratings, because people now think that you're a much better company. Nobody's blowing you up on a social media because you dropped their TV, because your employees care more. That has long-term financial benefits for you.
There is nothing more deceptive than the obvious, right? What we're saying is novel to some people, unfortunately. Like, wow, that's so true, right? But if you think about it, it's like, these are basics in business that people miss every day. I'm going to share a true story with you. Justin, you remember this. We had a operator, and he said, I have an adjuster with a TPA that wants to give us business. But Justin and I needed to make an investment first. So I said, you schedule a call with this adjuster. I want to hear him say, I want to work with you, but you need to do the following.
Cliff, for those at home, a TPA is a third-party administrator.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you. So I get on the phone with him, and he does this whole thing, and I go, how do we get your business? How do we keep it? And this is what he says to me. I don't want to get phone calls from homeowners. I'm like, that's it? He goes, I hate surprises, and I hate getting phone calls from homeowners. That's it. So that $50,000 a year, those were all phone calls to the adjusters, right? They broke this, they damaged this, they scratched this. problem solved. It becomes a force multiplying effect. You just said it. Online reputation, jacked up. Referrals from adjusters, all up. Everything's up. We grew that business. By the way, that one person that we were on the phone with gave us $1 million in our first year in business. We ended up doing 1.5 million with one TPA over the course of that relationship. 1.5 million. And the answer to the test was, I don't want to get phone calls or surprises from homeowners. I refer you, do your job, no surprises. Love it. Like, how could business be any simpler than that?
And it's still exactly like that today, right? Whatever TPA it was, right? And we work with TPAs because TPAs are a way too for not just franchises, but independents, right? To get some level of program work, which is why they go to a TPA. A third party administrator basically sits middleman between the carrier and the contractor, right? That's right. Their role is to keep the contractor in line, make sure that SLAs are met, and you're doing what you say you were going to do. The thing that drives us all crazy, if you go to any business anywhere and you're jumping on online reviews, it's all communication, communication, communication. If you don't return a phone call, eventually somebody will find their way back to that adjuster, right? That's right. And that's just more work for them.
Holly, one of the concerns that I hear all the time when people think about this business, it's completely unwarranted, is they think about emergency services. This is a 24/7 emergency services business. And they envision their lives just like, I'm never going to sleep again. My phone is blowing up off the hook in the middle of the night. And like, I'm never going to. Can you speak to that? So like, when do these calls come in? I would imagine if someone has a fire, they're not worrying about someone coming in to like clean their couch right away at 2 o'clock in the morning. Can you speak to the 24/7 aspect of the business?
Yeah. So for FRSTeam and contents, right, and contents restoration, it's not like mitigation. I would say that sometimes when there's a flood or a pipe burst, right, the people do go out on those claims in the middle of the night to suck water, but that's not us. We deal with their belongings, and so nobody needs us to come out at 2 a.m. to remove their belongings. Occasionally business and commercial losses sometimes will be a little more of that emergency services, but like every business, you rotate somebody on call, right? So for us, we do an on-call rotation. And what does that look like? An on-call rotation means, Justin, this week, you're responsible for the calls that come in the middle of the night, if there are any, right? Yeah. I will say that, I'm 29 years in. I spent many years being on our on-call, and it's rare. For us, it's, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, we're getting something that's coming in kind of after hours. Now, for mitigation, I'm guessing it's much more frequent, but you rotate that, right? So Justin, you do it this week, Cliff does it next week, and I do it the 3rd week, and Audrey does it the 4th week. So, you still have a sense of good culture as far as time off and time away from the office. It's not every day. It's not the middle of the night. Majority of our phone calls, right, are coming in through normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, right?
That's great. That's not on my list of what I like about the brand. That needs to be added. This is not your traditional someone holding the bat phone and getting a crazy phone call, because the insurance company expects, as of FNOL, the first notice of loss, you got to be there within an hour, 2 hours, start extracting water. Don't let it go into a category 3, right? It was $6,000 worth of water loss. Let's not make it 18 grand. Right. So you're not in that business. Listen, I have met dozens of feckless leaders, right? They're just terrible. They're in this industry and they're out of this industry. You're amazing. And you have the energy and the fire of someone that really just started, which is refreshing to see. I also love that you eat what you cook. Brands are always selling things to other people, but they never own it themselves. It drives me crazy, quite frankly. I love it when I could call a Holly Murry and say, let me tell you what I'm experiencing at the local level. And you respond with, you know what? I understand how you feel. We're dealing with the same thing in our West Coast locations. Let me tell you how we overcame it. It's like, yeah, you're in the trenches with me. I want to know that you have feet on the street. You're invested in my brand. you're dealing with the same stuff that I'm dealing with every day, like new line items in Exactimate, right? Or new issues in Packouts, or new labor concerns. You're in it. So I love that about your brand. I love that you're approximately 50% revenue derived from national vendor programs. I think that is a major feather in your cap that you've done it, and I hope you continue to expand it. I love the proven track record. I love how long you've been around, since the late 80s. We have what we call proof of concept, and I love proof of concept brands because, quite frankly, why do I put this on my list? I don't like brands that are born in the best of times because they'll never make it through a recession. Right? This is my issue with eyelash lounges and blow dry bars. Those things are created when money is flowing freely. They're never going to make it through a hard time. It's just the reality. So, proven track record, we talk about strong validation. You said it best. Call out franchisees. Go validate with them. Ask them how much money they're making. I love brands that say, don't forget me. I financially benefit from this transaction. Go call them. Call one of our 50 people. Call 5, 10 of them, whatever. So I love strong validating brands. I never use the word recession resistant, ever. He knows this. We both don't. It's always resilience, right? Brands are resilient to recessions. No one is resistant to a recession. I truly believe that restoration is recession resistant. It just doesn't matter. House has 2,000 gallons of water in it. It's going to be extracted. It's just the way it works, right? Tree goes through window, causes roof damage, roof gets fixed. So it is resistant to recessions. I love the diverse revenue streams. I love what you've done. I like the way you've built your brand over time and added all these revenue streams. I love the scalability. We're in a $210 billion industry. If you layer that, break it down, I think contents alone is what, 28 billion? I love that you don't need any prior industry experience, because that's what people are saying. Oh, I got to be certified. I have to know restoration. No, you have to generally care about people. You have to want to fight like hell to win. You have to have a desire to build a brand. Can you follow a proven system? And talk to us. And I do love that you're building a culture of what I would call unprecedented support. So those are the reasons why I love your brand. Wow. And I want to add Justin's comment, which is this is not your 24/7, 365 restoration brand. We can sleep at night. We'll deal with it in the morning, because we're not mitigators by definition, where we're mitigating liability for the insurance company and the homeowner.
I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. I really appreciated the time. You guys are a blast to hang out with and chat with. And I love talking about our industry and obviously FRST Team and our brand. And I just can't thank you guys enough. We really appreciated it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss out on more great content. And if you're considering investing in a franchise, whether it's the brand you featured today or another opportunity, we're here to help. Visit us at FRSTeam.com. That's FRANOCITY.com. We love to help you take that next step towards business ownership.